there is no such thing as a gay gene. There are a number of studies that disprove it. In fact, the easiest way perhaps to explain it is say, if you had, for example, a set of identical twins, that are purely, and they're identical. If they're identical twins, that means that they share the same gene pool. So if they share the same gene pool, and one twin is gay, I'm going to ask you here in the audience, what percentage of the other twins should be gay? Thank you, 100%. Well, what's really interesting is the first study done in this subject matter was done by a professor out at Northwestern University, and he did a very, very significant blind random study. He basically advertised in the Blade and the Advocate and a number of other of the gay publications, which is exactly the opposite of a blind random study, and said, well, I want all these identical twins to come forward, and so I can study you. If you have twin brothers, please, or sisters, please come, please come see me. Well, in doing his study, what he found was that where one twin was gay, 52% of the other twin was gay, meaning that 48% were not gay. Those kind of numbers are nowhere near the 100%, which clearly disproves, and this study, by the way, was done by someone who's very gay affirmative. Challenged on this study, other studies have been done subsequently. And perhaps the most important one is the one down in Australia, which was truly done as a blind study, a blind random study. And let me just finish this, okay? And then
That's just asking, was it Guttmacher?
No, it was Bailey. And the study down in Australia actually came out with a figure of below 10%. And this was done off the Australian Registry of the Twin Study. So, I mean, it's nowhere near 100%. And there's other studies out there. There's probably 4 or 5 studies that have actually done with identical twins. So there's absolutely nothing along those lines that really proves anything. There's other studies, but of course what happens is when the studies first come out, your mainstream media will headline, gay gene found. Or they'll say that this is a given. Everyone knows that this is that. And the problem with this, consistently, is that there's another study that was done, which is the hypothalamus study, where a study was done, there was autopsies done on people who had died of AIDS. And when the study was done, it was very clear that there was no control group. The people all died of AIDS, so you have no knowledge of whether they were gay or they had a blood transfusion or whatever it may be. And inevitably, when the study came out showing that there was an enlarged hypothalamus in the brain, they basically said, of course, gay gene found. Again, trumpeted in all the newspapers. And again, the truth has nothing to do with that, and there's no control group, there's no way of knowing it, etc. And there are study after study that is out there showing that there is no gay gene. Well, the gay activists, of course, very much trumpeted the idea of a gay gene when they first started, because, and it's very interesting, that if you look at the Gallup polls, and in my book, Light in the Closet, I actually tracked the Gallup polls over the last 20 or 30 years in terms of the question of, do people believe people are born gay or not gay? 20, 30 years ago, I don't remember the exact numbers right now, but it was approximately 20 to 22% of the population believed that people were born gay. Today, the most recent Gallup poll that I saw, 52% of the American population believe people were born gay. So this has been a very steady and very deliberate propaganda campaign that people have just accepted as a given. When I talk about the work I do and all the people that we've worked with that have actually successfully changed from gay to straight, have actually made the transition, have been able to transform themselves. People say, how can that be? They're born that way. And of course, again, this is a very deliberate strategy. And again, those of you that may have read, for example, the Kirk and Mattson work, After the Ball, I don't know, and many of you familiar with it, after the ball basically sets forth a very, very deliberate, I call it a manifesto, a very deliberate strategy of how gays are going to win political rights. And I have nothing against political rights for gays. I think that's fine. But do it on an honest and a fair basis. Don't do it on a way where, in effect, you become the new, fascists of the left. I mean, fascism has now gone from the right to the left. Because tolerance, diversity, equal protection, equal access doesn't exist for anyone who has a dissenting opinion in this area. I mean, I personally worked for years in the civil rights movement. I was down south doing voter registration drives and the freedom rides and all this kind of thing. I actually got hung in effigy when I was a student in college. I was editor-in-chief of my school newspaper.
You may get hung in effigy again, Arthur.
I was hung in effigy for advocating rights for African Americans. And so I believe very, very strongly. I'm a civil libertarian. I believe very strongly in the Bill of Rights. I believe very, very strongly in the rights of every individual to be free. But that is not what we're getting today. I believe very strongly in free speech, in the ability for people to have dialogue. But again, what's happening is that if you disagree with the gay agenda, they shoot the messenger, forget about discussing the message. Whatever happened to civilized dialogue? Whatever happened to freedom? That's my question. And it really bothers me to no end to see that we no longer have a civilized discourse in this country. Peter talked about Jennings. I mean, Jennings basically said, I don't know how many of you are familiar with what's happening in the school systems in America. Public school systems in America are basically getting more and more kindergarten, pre-kindergarten, first grade, second grade, etc., gay affirmative courses. And again, if you believe in civil liberties, if you believe in civil rights, you basically take the position at that point saying, okay, fine, you want to explain about a position that you believe may be correct on gay? Fine. How about the ex-gay position? How about the position of others who have gone through the process of change? How can they deny the reality of the thousands and thousands of people who have successfully changed? But what they do in the school systems, they don't want to hear that. And Jennings, Kevin Jennings, who you spoke about, he said, there is no other position to be spoken about. There's only one position. There's a very famous quote that he has, which I have in the book here, where he basically goes very clearly into saying there's only one position. It's the gay position. It's the only position we want to have heard, and no other position exists.